lesser Luigi. It's sort of like how Nitro Rad is to me, just a lesser equivalent, and that's fine. Since it's so easy to get...
Nitro Rad. The Rayman series has a history with spin-offs that's as interesting as it is bizarre. Back before Ubisoft had the Rabbids and Assassin's Creed, Rayman was their cash cow. I'm talking edutainment games, ports to every console imaginable, and even a weird TV show where Rayman was voiced by Billy West.
Thank you. You're too kind.
Funnily enough, West would return to voice Murphy in Rayman 3, which I thought was a much more fitting role for the guy.
Hey, I like that outfit on you. When does it come off?
Kinda like how you better fit the role of reviewing all those platformers, instead of those weird indie games you like to talk about so much.
Oh my lord. Hey everybody, please welcome to the stage, AntDude.
Listen, I'm just saying, you look like Rayman, you dress like Rayman, I feel like you were meant to exclusively talk about platformers. Like Rayman.
Okay, well even if it's not the only thing I cover on this channel, I've at least covered way more platformers than you have. Like, imagine how many you could have talked about if you weren't too busy jacking off to Kirby.
Hey, leave my pink squishy boy out of this. He did nothing wrong. Back on topic. Rayman. You were saying?
Oh, right. Yeah. Qualms aside, back on topic. Yeah, I know you just fumbled your way through Rayman Brain games, but have you ever heard of Rayman Arena?
Not really, no.
Alright, well I got a fun little story about this one. When I was a kid, I was super duper young, probably like 7 years old. I was saving my allowance for months and months and months for Animal Crossing. But one day I was at the store and I saw Rayman Arena on the shelf for a way cheaper price, and I kinda bought that instead.
But I thought you were saving up for Animal Crossing.
Oh, I was. My mom even brought that up. She was like, I thought you were saving up for Animal Crossing. But I was like, yeah, but I want Rayman now. I didn't even know what this game was. I just really liked Rayman 2 at the time, and I got really excited when I saw a new Rayman game on the shelf. Mind you, this was a couple of years before Rayman 3 came out, so Arena was sort of a way to hold over Rayman fans before they had the next proper entry in the series, which sort of reflects my experience with this game. Was it worth buying over Animal Crossing? Absolutely not. I remember it being fine. I know I enjoyed playing it a lot as a kid, especially the multiplayer modes with my friends, but unlike Arena, I can actually think of a lot of specific fond memories I had with Animal Crossing, so I'll let that much speak for itself. The game originally released in Europe as Rayman M.
Huh, what's the M stand for?
Multiplayer. Yeah, real creative, I know. The Western title, Rayman Arena, I think is much more representative of what this thing really is. You know, a multiplayer spin-off featuring both combat and obstacle course racing, featuring the cast of Rayman 2. There's rumors that they changed the title in the West to avoid correlation with the ESRB M rating, but I don't know how true that is.
Alright then, so how does it hold up? Good? Bad? Mediocre? What?
I want to say mediocre, but given that I have to share this experience with you, I'm gonna say bad.
That was a very simple question. I got attacked for no reason.
The game starts up with this pre-rendered intro showing off all the characters and the moves they can do, switching back and forth between the two game modes. It's a pretty goofy and fun intro, and I'd say it gets across what the game's all about pretty well.
I especially love the part where Glowbox steals Rayman's shoes.
What? There's no part where Glowbox steals Rayman's shoes?
What? Yeah, there is, when it's showing like the character models and all of their stats and whatever.
I swear that's not in this intro. You're not thinking of Rayman 3 where Glowbox steals his hands, are you?
No, I swear, there's a part where here... Yeah, see, I'm looking at it right now.
No, like I'm telling you, there's a... Oh, wait a minute. Which version of the game are you playing?
I'm playing it on the PS2, but does it really matter?
Oh, okay, of course, that explains it. I completely forgot about this. The PlayStation 2 version is really different.
What? Really?
Yeah, the game originally came out on just PS2. It didn't come to Xbox or GameCube until a whole year later, and when they made those versions, they completely overhauled the menus, added new content, and completely redid the intro. It's so different.
I told you there was some shoe stealing going on.
I don't really like this intro as much. It tries to play into this cutesy, jokey, look how happy it is, psych, things are not happy with the baby music, you know? I never really cared for that kind of gag.
okay, but the shoe theft is pretty good, though.
Okay, yeah, that bit is pretty funny. Rayman sitting there all pissed off at his dumb goofy socks is pretty good. Oh, I kinda can't stand how ugly the menus are in the PS2 version, so I think I'll mainly stick with the GameCube version for the review, especially since that's the version I grew up with. This version also had those fun cutscenes where Murphy would go into the break room and explain what each game mode entailed in the style of, like, annoying news coverage.
One rule. There are no rules. Anything goes, and I do mean anything.
Every single one ends with them beating the crap out of Murphy. Like, everybody just hates this guy for no reason. I love it. A lot of fun Easter eggs in the background of these cutscenes, too. Oh, there's Ed from Tonic Trouble. Ed's dead, baby. Ed's dead. So there's two main modes here. There's racing and there's combat. The racing mode is probably what people spent most of their time on here. You pick one of the many iconic characters from Rayman 2 and race 3 laps around a course. It's pretty self-explanatory. Since this game is based on Rayman 2, the moveset is pretty close to that game. You can grab ledges, though you can't jump out of the animation anymore, which kind of stinks. You can also use your helicopter hair to descend more slowly, and you can fire off small energy spheres. This won't be used for attacking your opponents, but rather taking out obstacles that may hurt you, or hitting switches to either unlock new pathways or to screw up your opponents. You can also latch onto these purple lumps to grapple over gaps, again just like Rayman 2.
It's so weird you can't attack with it. You actually can in the PS2 version. On top of triggering mechanisms, you also have an ice projectile to freeze other players with. It has a bit of a cooldown on it too, so you can't spam it. Ha, you get it? It's a cooldown because it's cold.
Do I have to kick your ass?
Man, I'm just out here trying to have a good time. I'm making some lighthearted jokes. You are being incredibly rude.
The second racing mode in this version does have that freeze projectile. Time attack. This one's actually super cool. Instead of just finishing 3 laps in first place, whenever you hit a checkpoint, the clock starts and the people behind you have a short amount of time to cross. If they run out, they're eliminated.
Almost as if you're only allowed to be 6 seconds behind your opponents?
Yeah, it's so cool. Everybody feels like they gotta be right on each other's tail way more aggressively this way, and the freezing projectiles elevate that sensation of fun panic and frustration between the players. Also, in the earlier stages of single player, the AI is so easy that you can beat these levels in like 20 seconds, and that's pretty fun.
I am just not seeing the time attack mode here. Instead, the PS2 version has 2 different modes alongside the main 3-lap racing. Firstly, there's Popolopoi. I really have no idea how that's pronounced or what the hell it even means, but basically you have to finish the course all by yourself within a time limit. And you can increase your time by shooting these butterflies. And the other one is lums. You gotta simply collect all of the lums on the way to the finish line. It's not really different enough from the main racing mode to warrant it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see why they removed those two in favor of that time attack mode. It just kind of seems like the same thing, but with some items slapped onto it. This time attack mode, however, definitely makes this version's racing mode the better package.
So what's next then? The battle mode, right?
Yeah, once again, it's split into 2 separate modes. The first one is Total Fight. Here you'll walk around the arena, grab some items, and then shoot the crap out of your opponents. You'll default to the small energy sphere from Rayman 2, which you'll have unlimited use of, but you can pick up limited items like rockets, time bombs, homing missiles, shields, and more. If you played Rayman 2, you more or less know what to expect from the combat here. You can lock on with a shoulder button, strafe left and right, and fire off shots, though I do think it feels a lot more stiff and less acrobatic than Rayman 2 did, which I think loses a lot of potential for dodging attacks. If they hit you, they hit you. There's not really much strategy involved when it comes to dodging. And weirdly enough, the score is not based on how many knockouts you get, but rather how many hits you landed total, regardless of what weapons you grabbed. Dying doesn't really have much penalty to it either. It only respawns you without the weapon you currently had, which, since it only lasts a couple of seconds anyway, it's not really a big deal.
You see, actually, in the original PS2 version, the score was based on how many KOs you got rather than the hits.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you know, I feel like it actually makes a lot more sense that way.
Yeah, this feels like the scoring system they should have used. The first to 5 knockouts, rather than whoever has the most hits after the time limit's up. Other than that, though, I do feel like the GameCube version does play a lot better. In the PS2 version, you don't have a default weapon. Instead, you just throw nothing. Like, at first I thought this was a slap or a punch or something, but no, it doesn't do any damage at all. You're totally defenseless until you find an item. Alright, so the second second combat mode we have here is Freeze Combat. You got that freeze projectile from Time Attack again, but this time it's a race to see who can collect the most lumps, freezing each other right before you can pick it up. God, this mode is stressful, but it is a lot of fun with friends. I kinda hate this mode in single player though. It's infuriating having the computers freeze you over and over as you're just trying to pick these things up, but in multiplayer it is a blast. You're shoving each other out of the way, you're fighting over the lumps by freezing each other right before they get to it, and you're screaming at each other. It's like a Black Friday. It's total pandemonium, and I love it.
This mode can also be found in the PlayStation 2 version. They didn't replace it like they did with the racing mode. However, there is a third combat mode that isn't in the other versions. It's sort of like this King of the Hill type thing. You grab a lum and then you gain points the longer you hold onto it. But if you get hit, your opponent will steal it from you. So basically, everyone is fighting over who can hold onto the lum the longest.
Yeah, this one's okay. I do feel like it's sort of a less fun version of Freeze Combat though, because you're fighting over just one object instead of many. I do really hate how the PS2 version always has this reticle on screen, showing which way you're gonna shoot if you fire, but like I can figure out the general direction. I don't really need this. On GameCube and Xbox, they only have the reticle when you're locking on, and I like that a lot better. The HUD is also way less cluttered and more appealing looking overall in my opinion. I like the little colorful character silhouettes, and the item icons are a lot easier on the eyes as well.
It almost seems as if the PS2 version was half-baked in the graphics department.
Yeah, for real. It's like they took it out of the oven too early, and then they made the PS2 version with that, put it back in to finish cooking, and then released that on Xbox and GameCube. But it's not just the graphics. I find the PS2 version doesn't really play as smoothly either. I find the jumping in this version to be a lot more floaty, like the weight doesn't feel quite right. I think so at least. I don't know, I might just be used to the updated versions, but I'm not really huge in how the weight feels here. The lighting effects also don't really look quite right in the PS2 version. It's as if the aperture on the camera was set like 2 or 3 cranks too high, if that makes sense. Like the characters are all slightly overexposed. The lighting looks way more natural on GameCube and Xbox.
It's almost like how AntDude looks like a more natural Nitro Rad.
Oh, eat my entire ass.
Hey now, inviting me over to dinner without inviting my good old pal Kirby? He's very hungry, he could use some food.
Oh, I swear I'm going to strangle you.
I mean, good luck with that. We live on complete opposite sides of the continent, so...
Kevin, please, Kev, just can you draw me strangling this guy, please? There we go. That's more like it. That's what I'm talking about.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Seriously, Kevin? This is how you repay me for commissioning you to do all my thumbnails? That's pretty low.
Sorry.
Thanks, Kev. I owe you one.
Hey James, aren't you gonna talk about Rayman Rush? That's the version I grew up with.
Wait, Rayman Rush?
Oh, dude, Rayman Rush. Now here's a weird thing that exists apparently. Half a year after the release of Rayman Arena on PS2, they made a PS1 port of just the racing mode.
Wait, so you mean to tell me they took an existing game and made a last-gen version of it?
Yeah, it's like a Rayman Arena demake. It's kinda cool actually. Sorta reminds me of DS versions of 360 games. It was like getting a PS1 version of whatever game was new at the time. But anyway, Rayman Rush only features the racing mode, and as you'd expect, the graphics and performance have seen a considerable downgrade. It sort of plays how Rayman 2 played on PlayStation, which is sorta clunky. There's a lot of jank collision. I've had a lot of moments where my character would fidget into the side of a platform because the game couldn't decide if I was on it or bumping into it. The game's sound effects would also cut out for me a lot. It'd either get hung up on one, or it would stop playing them altogether. It's probably just a scratch on my disc or something, but man, this was a constant problem. The stages in this version are a little bit different. A lot of them are watered down or simplified versions of the courses from Arena, but there's a handful of original stages here too.
And it looks like it has all of the racing modes from the PS2 version, including the time attack mode from the updated version.
My guess would be is that they made up time attack for this version, but then liked it enough to carry it on over to the other versions. Interesting. Other than that though, this is much closer to the PS2 version, which makes sense because the updated versions wouldn't be out for another 6 months at this point. Rush even shares the exact same intro sequence as the PS2 version, except now it's in 240p, so it's kinda crunchy looking now. Oh, one thing I should bring up about this version is that it actually has an exclusive character not in the other versions. Glowbat, a cute little pink glowbox looking dude.
Okay, but that's just Uglet from Rayman 2 with a bow though.
Well, I mean, the manual swears it's a different character, but yeah, it does kinda look like they just reused the model. Not every character is ripped directly from Rayman 2 though. I mean, you do have the usual suspects, Rayman, Glowbox, Robo-Pirate, the Teensies, Razorbeard, but they did also make up some brand new characters for the game too. We've got this improved Robo-Pirate model called the Henchman 1000, as opposed to the Henchman 800.
Excuse me, I'll have you know the PS2 intro calls him the Hunchman.
Yeah, that's definitely a typo. I actually think the Henchman 800 from Rayman 2 does look a lot cooler. I never really was too big on the 1000 model. We've also got Tilly the Fairy. I'm assuming she's related to Lee the Fairy from Rayman 2. You know, looks similar-ish, I'm assuming of the same race, except she's a kid. I never really cared that much for this character. She's just kind of there. Also kind of creepy looking too. Weirdly enough, Lee the Fairy actually did appear in the game's promotional material, yet she's completely absent from the final game. I imagine at some point in development they replaced her with a new younger character instead, but as to why they did that, I have no idea. Anyway, who else do we got? There's also Mrs. Razorbeard, or just Mrs. Beard in Rush. Some versions apparently call her Razor Wife. It seems like nobody can decide on what to call this character, but regardless, it's Razorbeard's wife, and that's a pretty funny idea. I kinda love how they designed this entire game around Rayman's moveset and then added new characters and realized, oh no, now we have to find a way to make these characters shoot and hover. Glowbox turns into a balloon, the robots got their little jet thrusters. Oh, I love the Teensies. One grabs the other and swings them around like a helicopter. Now, Rayman Rush didn't have this. When you beat that game, it's kinda just over, but Rayman Arena has all of these unlockable skins, which is a pretty great incentive to finish all of the cups. Some of these are pretty dang cool too, especially the ones for Henchman 800. Rayman initially appears to be the only one with no extra skins, but if you 100% the game, you get this Dark Rayman skin. It doesn't really look much like he's, actually supposed to look, but this being so secretive and unexpected makes it very exciting when the game randomly pits you against him, just like Rayman 1.
Actually, didn't the GameCube and Xbox get an exclusive character or something?
Yeah, in the updated version they added Dark Glowbox, this heavy-breathing maniac of a character. He's a pretty fun character, but his theme song is kind of annoying. It sounds like Rugrats music from hell.
Oh, that's one thing I did notice that you have to mention. The theme song changes.
Oh, yeah. That's another really cool thing about this game. It always plays the theme of whoever's in first, so it'll usually rotate around a couple of themes depending on who's in the lead. It's pretty satisfying getting to hear your own theme song whenever you're winning, and the theme it plays for Rayman is really catchy.
Isn't there one final thing that you can unlock in the updated version that wasn't in the PS2?
Yes, the exhibition maps. You unlock one every time you clear a cup. There's 4 on the racing side and 4 for combat. They're essentially these bonus maps that have these a virtual space-looking aesthetic, except this random one is just like some woods with one of the maps from Rayman 2 for some reason. I always thought that stuck out like a sore thumb. This one's literally just a map from Pac-Man. Oh, they even called it Pac Arena. Wow.
Oh, is that legal? Are they allowed to do that?
I have no idea, but they sure did. The racing ones are pretty much just more complicated and more challenging racetracks. They're really great for multiplayer. This one has you outrunning a giant tidal wave. That was a favorite of mine when I was a kid.
Those are kinda neat bonuses, I guess, but I prefer the look of the regular levels. It was pretty cool getting to see a lot of locations from Rayman 2 reimagined as some sort of arena or racetrack.
Yeah, dude, if you're a big fan of Rayman 2, oh man, seeing all of these familiar locations and textures and characters, it's super great. Especially seeing them in crisper next-gen quality if you were somebody who skipped out on the Dreamcast and PS2 versions of Rayman 2, which at the time was exactly what I did. So yeah, I guess that just about wraps things up. That's pretty much all I have to say about Rayman Arena.
Alright then, interesting. How does it hold up?
It's okay. I mean, I definitely like the racing mode a lot more than the combat mode, but across the board I'd say it's fairly mediocre. I think the biggest thing that really holds it back is definitely the very low skill ceiling. You don't really keep that momentum you get from boost pads very long. Whenever you jump, your momentum halts and you just revert to normal speed. This means you can't string together any sorts of elaborate movements to fly across the stage. As long as you take all the shortcuts and hit all of those boost pads, it's not really that hard to go as fast as the game will let you, so I guess it's definitely a racing game for beginners. Which, it was one of my first ever racing games, so for me in that mindset, I think it was a pretty decent pick. Also kinda surprised the game never tried to have an online mode, since multiplayer was supposed to be this thing's selling point, but again, I guess a low skill ceiling probably would have kept this thing from really taking off in the way that other fighting and racing games did.
It's still pretty wild how different that PS2 version is though. You don't really ever see that happen in games. Them just releasing a totally different version a year later on other platforms and kind of pretending the original didn't happen?
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, imagine all of the people who grew up playing this thing on PS2, which, looking at the sales online, was over 70% of the people who even played this thing. They probably have no idea there's a totally different and arguably better version of the game out there.
Yeah, you know, it kind of reminds me of the PS1 version of Rayman 2. It removed like half of the game's levels, and yet all of these years later, there are definitely people out there who grew up with that version that don't even realize they didn't play half the game.
Yes, exactly, dude. Oh my god, it drives me nuts every time I see like a top 10 PS1 games of all time, and they always have Rayman 2. Like, no, that version of the game sucks. It's the worst version of the game. Do not play this on PS1. Do not.
Well, I gotta say, it has been a very fun learning experience. I had no idea about this until now.
Yeah, well, I guess that's just the magic of making YouTube videos, you know, like, you learn a lot about this stuff just by covering it, and being able to share that information with other people is a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, exactly. I do the same thing as you for a living. You don't gotta tell me twice.
Yeah, okay, you know, but I have to admit, though, this was maybe kind of a little bit fun doing this together. A little bit.
Alright, James, admit it. We're best friends now.
Okay, don't push your luck, Ant-Man, or I'm gonna send Thanos' butthole after you.
Fair enough. It has been a pleasure, though.
Likewise, you know, I guess you could say that Rayman Arena is best enjoyed with friends, after all.
Wow, dude, seriously? That's how you're gonna end on things? That corny line? Okay, if you say so. Hey everybody, if you want to check out something that's probably a bit cooler than the video you just watched, you can go and check out my Rayman Brain Games video that Nitro Rad himself starred in. Pretty good time all around. Oh man, 20 seconds are up. That goes by really fast.